Now for our next keynote, this with Jonathan Prantner, Chief Analytics Officer with One Magnify. And his subject is unlocking AI for marketing in manufacturing. Welcome, Jonathan. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you very much for having me today.
You are very, very welcome indeed. One thing I will say, it's been a really interested and engaged audience today, so no doubt we'll have some questions that come in, and I will come back to those at the end of your presentation. So the virtual floor is yours, sir.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit today about the intersection that we see in the space that allows us to bring together what has been done for years on the manufacturing side through the actual development of products that are brought to market within industry, and how that intersects with marketing, particularly in the B2B space. And so I want to thank you all for joining me today. I am Jonathan Prantner. I'm the Chief Analytics Officer at One Magnify. And One Magnify helps the world's leading brands create an optimal customer experience through digital transformation. We're able to drive personalization at scale through data-driven and AI-enhanced marketing solutions. We have more than 700 folks that span marketing, creative, technology, analytics, and AI that really excel in bringing brands messages through digital channels, and that allows us to really help us set our clients apart from their competitors. So our team has 50 years of creative driven brand building experience in B2B and manufacturing. And with that pedigree and that history, the evolution of how we use data has been really interesting, because in the marketing space, we see that we're able to adapt these technologies that have been used in other areas of manufacturing. And quite often in the B2B space, we are helping organizations that are lagging a little bit behind, trying to catch up to some of the things that we have seen in the B2C space. And so within the last year in particular, everyone is looking for an AI solution when we are delivering insights from marketing mix to customer lifetime value. People have been asking, hey, can we add ChatGPT to that? And so that makes us take a step back and say, okay, what do we actually mean when we're speaking about AI? Because AI is an extremely broad term. I like to think of it the same way that I think of the term science. It can mean anything from a child's baking soda volcano to space travel. And so when we think of AI, the key differentiator is that it's trying to replicate some kind of a human decision-making process. And it does that with three main components. First, it's a system that utilizes data, makes decisions, and acts upon them. So whenever we're thinking of AI, that's what we want to consider. And I always like to say there's a piece of AI technology that everyone has grown up with, and that's the thermostat within your house. So not talking about smart thermostats on your phone, but kind of the traditional one. You set it to a certain temperature, it gets colder than that, it turns on, it gets a little warmer, it turns off. And that's replicating that human decision-making process of saying, oh, I'm cold, I'm going to put some more logs on the fire. I'm warm, I'm going to open up the flue a little bit. And so that process has a system which uses data to make decisions and then act upon them. And that's really the key differentiator that we see. But the great thing about being in the industrials and manufacturing space is that a lot of the history that we have that we utilize on the marketing side has come through the engineering side of the house. So I like to think of AI in terms of these three revolutions that have happened over the time. The first really was the explosion of machine learning, which led us to robotics and changed the way in which products are made. The second revolution, which has been around since the 1960s, but has really taken off in the last 15 to 20 years, is computer vision and speech recognition. Understanding how products are interacting with each other and how they can interact with the world around them. And then the space that we're in now is very interesting, because this is the first time that the revolution is really being driven by the marketing and strategy professionals instead of the folks that we have on the engineering side. And that's because natural language processing and generative AI are attempting to understand the context and the why behind what our customers are expressing. So I'm going to dive into each of these areas briefly to highlight a few case studies showing how we have really been able to merge that intersection between the history that we have in the manufacturing space of utilizing AI and how that applies to marketing in today's world. So we'll start off with that first revolution of machine learning. And machine learning is really mimicking the process of differentiation and estimation. Simple example is, let's think we're trying to sort fruit. And so we're doing this based on different quantifiable aspects of the fruit that we have. We know its size, we know its shape, we know its color, we know its texture. All of these things that we can turn into numeric or categorical variables about it helps us differentiate between, say, an apple and an orange. This is something that has been used for years in the manufacturing realm. It's been used for quite a while in the marketing realm as well, but because it's using kind of that, historic data that we have to train models, recognize those patterns, and allow our systems to then replicate human decision making. So if we look at where this has developed from the manufacturing side, time to failure with machinery is a perfect example. So we've been using AI for quite a while to be able to forecast when equipment failures are going to occur before they happen. So that lets us understand not only what components we expect to fail in a certain period of time, but understanding based on the ability to access those, the life cycle of other components in that area, how we are able to move forward and identify not just one, but what other products we should serve. And so that allows us to enhance the equipment lifespan, use data-driven decision making to identify different opportunities. And on the marketing space, that translates into, instead of fixing a part just in time before it fails, into just in time marketing. And so, an example that we have here, we were working with a client in the automotive space, and they had a known universe of customers. So, these would be customers which have either at the tier one level with the manufacturer or at the tier three level with the dealership have interacted both digitally, both through CRM communications, both actually through previous purchases and service history. And so from that, we were able to take all of that information and being able to identify the likelihood of consumers to purchase in a window of time, as well as to service, as well as when they have been shopping, understanding when they're likely to abandon those customers. And so based on that, we were able to take that information and tie it into different personas. And those personas allowed us to create custom audiences, which would allow us to then use that information to target new customers. So using these propensity models and these propensity to service models, we were able to create lookalike audiences that allowed the manufacturer that we were working with to actually replace a targeting system they were using and reduce their tech debt by $3 million. So that same concept of understanding when a component's going to fail as to when a customer is in market and being able to identify other customers of that sort shows how the marketing organization is able to replicate what we have done on the manufacturing side. Similarly, using machine learning and other types of models, supply chain has been a huge concept that AI has done wonders to maximize. Being able to forecast demand accurately, understanding what components we need in order to make our products so that the routes are optimized, that we always have the right level of inventory. It allows us to look across different suppliers to understand how we can do it in the most cost-effective way, but still being sure that we are protecting ourselves from risk there. That allowed us to take that same concept into the marketing space to deliver on the concept of the right message to the right customer at the right time. Using that known universe, we were able to create the audiences that allowed us to understand who that right customer is and what the right time to speak to them is. And then taking that same information, being able to optimize what that customer journey looks like. So, what communications they should have across time, how that is able to be maximized from that. So, taking that same example that we had before, once we identify those audiences, and we were able to put media and market, we were able to use that segmentation that we had there to then tie that in with multi-touch attribution, which allowed us to identify the incremental contribution of different media channels and then optimize that through time. Now, the second revolution that we had in the AI space was around computer vision. And so this started with IBM back in the late 60s, but within the last, 10 to 15 years, we have all gotten so used to it that it's completely commonplace for us to look at our phones in order to access our emails. And so whereas machine learning is a very direct concept of differentiation and estimation through quantifiable information, with computer vision, it is mimicking a process that is a little bit less direct, and that's the process of perceptual mapping. So, if we think about a child who can hear, speak, and see, and we think about how they learn language, we will show them different pictures, different objects, and try to relate that to the name. So, we identify this is an orange. And then for a child, at first, being able to differentiate between that and an apple or that and even a basketball, they're learning kind of the different characteristics. But rather than having a kind of checklist of it is this color, it is this shape, it's this texture, now we're allowing us to take the images that we have. And in the same way that when our mind sees something and we start to do all these classifications, using that vector embedding for the different images, we're able to do that. So that allows us to have object recognition, allows us to segment our images, to understand what is appropriate in the scene and what is not. And based on the aspects that we see, identify if something that a vehicle sees or something that is seen in a manufacturing floor is appropriate. And from the manufacturing side, that's something that automated visual inspection has done. So it allows us to utilize different cameras, different sensors to understand and improve quality control, detect defects in real time, and scale in a cost-effective way. And so when we look at this that has been done successfully in the manufacturing space, and we bring this over to marketing, the first way that this was done was through kind of creative proofing. So ensuring that the visual representations that we have for the communications going out align with the layout and the text expectations. It replaces manual review, and it allows us to automate that process so we can ensure consistency. We can actually take things a step further, because if we look at a communication we're going to send out, we can use computer vision to run that through an embedding engine and actually get different features that are coming out of this. So that same way that we have the scene understanding, we're able to understand which aspects exist in an image. When we combine that then with the machine learning that we have, that allows us to start to get expectations based on what we have in these images and what we've seen from prior communications. And this is where this ties into kind of the latest revolution that we're having when we think about large language models, because we've used those machine learning models to kind of segment our customers and create audiences. We're then able to understand, based on our targeting we've had for those audiences, what the response is. We're able to then take those communications that have gone out, run them through so we can have those embeddings and understand the difference. And that allows us to actually train different GPTs that we would have across those for those different audiences and those different personas. Because particularly in the B2B space, we have such a complex buying process that it allows us to focus in on the needs of each of those stakeholders that go through that process. And so when we bring that concept back together with being able to extract the different pieces of a communication that's going out, we're able to actually test those pre-deployment to understand the size of the audience that we have based on all of the text, all of the images, all of the layout of our communications, have not only expectations for what that response would be, but also using that to be able to further optimize the expectations that we have. And so this takes us to kind of the latest revolution that we have inside the machine learning and AI space, which is generative AI. So the key to the transformer architecture that these large language models are utilizing is that they are mimicking the process of sensory familiarity. So the example I give for this is I was once on vacation with my family, and we were looking for food across different stores. I walked into one and I knew it was the one that would have what I needed. And so, based on what exactly though? There was something about the setup of the store, the aromas when I walked in, lighting, all of those things related back to past knowledge I had, and it told me that I'm likely to find the foods that I'm looking for here. That is the process that large language models and generative AI are using. Instead of kind of the sensory cues, they are taking keywords to be able to use those to identify a relation to different things. And it builds that sense of familiarity and confidence. One way in which we use this that has worked really well for us in the manufacturing space is around customer care issues. Because when we think about generative AI models, what we think about a lot of times is the chatbot that we interact with. But we've seen tremendous value from this by looking at the communications that come through customer care and being able to use these models to summarize them in a systematic way. So, an example, we were working with an automotive manufacturer, and they were using traditional natural language techniques to take advantage of all of this wealth of feedback they're getting from customers. So, they have these conversations, they're transcribed and they're stored. But the issue was that a lot of these traditional techniques were surfacing the issues that were already known. So we were able to incorporate this concept of emotional progression into this because what I love about customer care data is that each point in the conversation, at each turn between agent and customer, you have the ability to change that trajectory. And so that's what we're looking at with emotional progression is understanding those points in which the conversation changed. Example that we have here, someone was looking for a full-size pickup with a heated steering wheel. They were unable to get it. Dealership wasn't able to help them. They call the customer care line. Agent identifies, yes, we can't see those. We can't get those right now, but we are able to get this sedan with the heated steering wheel. Are you interested in that? Customer becomes irate at this point. Says, if you don't understand the difference between a full-size pickup and between a sedan, I don't know why I'm bothering to speak with you. And whether or not we want the agent to say that, that would have never surfaced with traditional techniques. But by having standardized prompts that take a look at each one of the call transcripts, summarize them across 5 key main themes, identify the theme, sub-theme, theme, sentiment, and that emotional progression switch point from there, we're able to surface these issues and allow the customer care representatives to decide if this is a tactic they would use or not. Final case that I'm going to run through is actually a way that on the marketing side, using these techniques, we've been able to pass information back to the manufacturing side. So when we look at quality care issues, traditionally, recalls come up through government agencies, and then it becomes a costly thing for manufacturers. We were working with a transmission manufacturer to be able to use social listening across blogs and forums and other communications between customers to identify performance issues that were seen in certain vehicles. That was then passed back to the engineering team, who was able to replicate those issues, be able to identify a defect, identify a fix for it, and then proactively get that out rather than having a government recall, which is costly and usually costs an additional several $1,000,000. And they were able to improve that response time from being reactive to having a mandate from the government into being able to listen to customers that were having issues, identify how to fix that. So I just wanted to thank everyone so much for letting me join today and talk a little bit about this. As I said, we have had so much knowledge and technology that we've been able to take out of the manufacturing space, bring into the marketing side, that it's really exciting that now we're able to kind of close that circle, start to bring some of those marketing techniques back over, and really take these B2B organizations that are working to provide that customer experience at the same level that they provide their product quality and product safety. So I invite everyone to visit our virtual booth. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, would like to hear any more about the case studies, please feel free to reach out to us at ai@onemagnify.com.
Jonathan, thank you so much. So many fantastic examples mixed in there as well. Question for me though is looking forward. Do you feel at the moment we are still almost scratching the surface with the potential of this technology and this kind of, well, there's so much potential here. Where do you feel it can go next?
So, where we are seeing a lot of value with this is by actually taking the AI technologies that are emerging and figuring out how to chain them together into existing processes. Because there are really three ways that we see impact with this. One is through individual productivity, which we're all seeing everything from autocorrect to being able to help us code certain things. But then, kind of the second way organizations are seeing this are by changing processes and being able to optimize that experience. So, the biggest thing that I see with AI, especially in the marketing space, is it is allowing us to take that concept of the right message to the right customer at the right time and to make that a reality. So now, instead of having broad general segments, we're able to absorb all of the feedback that we're getting from customers, what they're telling us, what they're telling each other, compare that to what we're telling them. Create the intersection between the three of those to really deliver communications that are worthwhile to our customers and also help drive the activities that we want.
And has there ever been a bit of feedback that you've got from, from a client, from a customer who's come back to you and said, oh, we thought we knew what we were getting, but there's so many unexpected benefits as well? That's always a question I love, because there's always sort of an outlier that comes to you and says, we had this that we weren't expecting. Any examples you pick up there?
So the biggest thing that we have actually seen is the amount that this has helped with activating data that folks have, because they usually go into it with one specific use case. That's what we always help direct people. We don't want to go in and do AI for AI's sake. We want to solve a problem. But as we are organizing the data to solve that problem, it usually leads to the second, third, and fourth thing that they can do once they have things in that structure.
That's a fantastic answer. Yeah, it's always fascinating when you see those unexpected benefits. Well, we are going to have to wrap up there so we can go to our next break. But Jonathan Prantner, Chief Analytics Officer at One Magnify, thanks so much for joining us here at Manufacturing and Mobility Live.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Always a pleasure.